I just read Gunmetal Gods by Zamir Akhtar, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly, but please be forgiving if I am not. And I gotta say, it messed me up. I was not prepared for what I read. I was pleasantly surprised, a bit shocked, and very much so thrown for a loop because oh baby daddy, this book is a slapper, and it's not what I was expecting at all. I was not ready for this book. So let's get into it, baby.
Oh, he's technically Mexican and 3/4 American, but for 3 generations he's got that nationality. Great-great-grandpa headed south, whose kids as kids then turned around. It's not what the show's about, but it's why he's Mexican technically. He hopes that he was raised in New Mexico, lived in Guadalajara for 2 years, speaks fluent Spanish with a bachelor's degree in language, and makes Zamil taquito.
I pretty much knew nothing about this series before I started it. I had heard of the name, and it had recently gone on sale on Audible for one of those months where you can get 2 books for 1 credit, and so I clicked the button. It had a cool picture on the front, and in the back of my mind, I remember that Daniel Green had mentioned that he enjoyed it like a year ago on his channel. And that was the extent of my knowledge, other than the fact that I knew that it was an Indian, Middle Eastern inspired fantasy setting. And that sounded pretty cool. I'm always talking about on this channel how I dislike it when they race swap characters in movie adaptations because I think it cheapens the experience rather than enriching it with diversity. I don't think that people of color deserve sloppy seconds of a white character that's been painted and repurposed to be more ethnic. I think it's kind of insulting when companies do that. I would much rather have companies create new, original, diverse characters or adapt characters from more diverse source materials, which is why I was really excited to read this book, because we do have a lot of fantasies that are set in medieval England, and while that is awesome and I love it, it's also cool to branch out and see fantasies inspired by different cultures. So I was really excited to read this Middle Eastern fantasy, and it did not disappoint. The cultural stuff in this book is fascinating and awesome. It's a real page turner. I really like the setting, and it was really cool how this specific setting influences the fantasy genre because it is very much so incorporated into the plot. It's not just a regular fantasy with an ethnic sticker slapped on it. This is a Middle Eastern fantasy inspired world setting, and the story is very much so inspired by Middle Eastern folklore and culture. It is engrossing. I'm not going to spoil the story at all, because I think the less you know about this, the better, because I was pleasantly surprised at every turn. But the basic setup is it's about a holy war. It's about 2 cultures that have been clashing for longer than anyone alive can remember, and no one knows who started it or why, but they've been fighting eternally for no reason other than, well, these guys attacked us last time, so now we gotta take our Holy Land back. And the story is told almost exclusively from the perspective of 2 characters, both being generals or leaders of the armies of each opposing side. So it's really cool. You get both sides of the story, you get both sides of the culture, and you see both sides setting up and plotting things that you know are going to go wrong because you see what the other person is planning. And it's a wonderful setup, and it's utilized incredibly well. The book also wastes no time. Like, the first couple chapters, you're thinking, oh, okay, I know what this book's going to be about. They're setting up these events. And then the next chapter, those events just happen, and you're like, oh, I thought that was going to be like the finale of the story, but it's over. What next? And oh boy, there's stuff just keeps happening. This book, for the first time in a long time, I had absolutely no idea where the story was going. I'm usually pretty good at predicting basic plot structures and like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. And with this book, I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna hold on. I'm gonna hold on tight, and we're gonna just see what happens. So it's incredibly fast-paced, and surprisingly, that fast pace doesn't sacrifice character growth. Like, you get to know these characters pretty friggin' well, and there are genuine human moments of growth and failure that are incredible. It's a very moving story that I just could not put down. I finished it in like 2 days, and it was good. And while I was totally ready for a Middle Eastern fantasy, I was not ready for the sudden eldritch horror elements. Like, halfway through the book, things start happening and I'm like, oh, this is also Lovecraftian. And I clearly should have known this going in, because there's a big Cthulhu on the cover of the book. But in my naivete, I thought it was like metaphorical. I've read lots of books with dragons on the front cover that didn't actually have dragons in the book. So I thought the gods were metaphorical. But no, the cover of the book it's literally a scene from the book. You meet the Cthulhu guy, and I didn't know that was gonna happen. And the second half of the book progressively gets more and more into the cosmic horror, and I liked it. Wasn't ready for it, and I was very surprised. But it's very good. Gets a little bit disturbing. Like, I don't know if you'd like the book, but I'm messed up, so I did. Anyways, I really don't want to get into any more details, because the less you know, the better. But man, this book is spicy. I will also add, though, there are a couple of naughty moments, which for me personally and my Christian sensibilities were slightly uncomfortable, and I personally would have preferred a little bit less detail, but it was never overtly pornographic. Most of it was implied, and it was definitely not gratuitous. Those scenes are in there for a reason and are very important. They're very important to the story. So I understand why they're there, and I would never enter someone else's fandom and tell them that they need to change. It was just a little bit uncomfortable for me personally, but it wasn't that bad. It's just there as a warning for my good fellow Christian boys and girls. So you've been warned. It's not that bad, but it's a little uncomfortable. Anyway, this book totally slaps. I was already looking forward to reading it, but I was not prepared for just how good it was. This is the future of fantasy. The way that it's written is absolutely brilliant. And the way that he's able to write about cosmic horrors is really well done, because it's inherently hard to describe the indescribable Lovecraftian creatures that make people go mad when they see them. That's the whole point of cosmic horror, is it's supposed to be indescribable, because if you witness it, then you go crazy. He does a really good job of writing about these horrors that are inherently indescribable by using metaphors and comparisons to things. Like, it's really well done, and it's really subtle. Good book. Also, the author is a really cool guy, and he followed me on Twitter. So that's cool. He's a cool guy, and he seems incredibly humble. He just looks, he's a nice guy. Also, I did a bit of digging on his website, and apparently he got his start at writing by writing creepy no-sleep stories on Reddit, and people liked him so much that's how he got his practice out, and then he wrote a book. So anyway, I just bought book 2, which is called Conqueror's Blood. I'm excited to pick that up. And the third book is on the cusp of being released at the end of this month. Elder Epic comes out on the 28th. So I'm very much looking forward to reading the other two. There's also a prequel book, Death Rider, which I've not read, and another series that he's starting called Lightblade. Which I know nothing about, but the artwork's pretty cool. So there you go. That's Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar. It was a fascinating read, and I loved it. And it's very disturbing, but I'm kind of messed up personally, so I like that kind of crap. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one when I'm done with Conqueror's Blood. We'll see you then if I still have my sanity and I review part 2. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bye.